It is time for the Stochastic Fiction Game. Stochastic Fiction Game is a writing game. I'm going to give myself 2 hours for this time today. Someday I'll randomize the time of the Stochastic Fiction Game. That day is not today. I do randomize what exactly is going to be written. I do that by executing this script called Stochastic. And that stochastic script creates this file right here, which is a stochastic game fiction outline. I will open that up and I'll have the story elements that I will be following and constricting myself, restricting myself, maybe even constricting myself to use during this time in this game. Well, for today's stochastic fiction game story elements, we will be following these parameters and using the random existence of me to be able to come up with some story within this time frame of, well, now like an hour and 58 minutes. The story elements are setting time present, setting main location car, conflict person versus nature, quantity of primary characters mini, point of view third, tense present tense, genre sports. Your format. What I mean by your format, it can be a flash fiction story. The first chapter of a novel, the last chapter of a novel, or the middle chapter of a novel. Those are the formats and guidelines I use. For today, I want to make life a little bit fun. Let's see if I can do it in flash fiction, complete an entire story today. Recently, I have written the first chapter of a novel, the last chapter of a novel. I want to go with flash fiction and fall into a comfort zone. Maybe a little bit too comfortable for me, but flash fiction will at least make the challenge of having to write a complete story instead of wave hands to say I can fix it in previous chapters or the last chapter, as is the case when you're writing the chapter of a novel in this game. Okay, well, that doesn't help me much writing the thing. I got to think of the story right now. So we got sports and car. Like, I don't understand where that's going to go too far. I'm thinking Formula One, like if we got sports car. There's many characters in there. The present person versus nature, though. And you're in a sports and in a car. It could be like some sort of rally. I think those are mostly outdoors and within nature. Motorbike. But you're in a car, not a bike. I have to be in a car. The main location is in a car, and it's a sport, so we're going to be racing. But now we have to do person versus nature. So I know what it could be. As I sort of yawn a little bit, I might have an answer for it. I might have an idea. They're trying to climb a hill in cars. I've experienced this. I've seen other people in other countries in YouTube do this such a thing, so it's global. I'm not the only one that has experienced it, the attempt for a car or a motorbike to make it up a steep hill, sometimes ending in disastrous effects. I never experienced the disastrous effects, fortunately, though I was quite naive sometimes riding in that truck in its bed as it's going up the hill that could tip over backwards. It was a sport. Who could make it up? I guess the person versus nature is you're trying to defeat that hill. And it's a little bit of person versus person when you're getting into the sport, but you have to climb the hill before you can even get and achieve victory. I'm going to go with that, unless there's a change in my ideas along the way. But right now, given time, given life, given a flash fiction story, what's got to make it entertaining? Sport. I'll give myself a few minutes before I dive into this idea because it was kind of brought up quickly. As soon as I seen car, and then when I read sports, NASCAR came to mind, but that's not really necessarily something that is going to be versus nature because they've already sort of had that battle with the stadiums and the roads, and they've won. So the person versus nature, if you have it like a heel, it's a little bit, maybe there's like some sort of animals or something, where you're at the edge of society and you're in sand dunes and you're driving your truck up a sand dune trying to get to the top. Well, yeah. Person versus nature. Isn't it always a matter of dominance, even if it's just that hill? Maybe we can go with it. How would I start that story? And where would that story be placed in my mind? It'd have to be someplace that I know. I mean, I've experienced this in certain parts of desert land, Utah. Mostly with motorbikes, though. Like, typically when I did it with trucks or was experienced with trucks, it's just been like two of them trying to get up a dirt hill and not a sand hill necessarily. So I've seen videos of people doing sand hills in trucks. I think they must have had paddle tires because they were shooting rooster tail sands up pretty high in the sky. So let's try to write this story. My gosh, man. Person versus nature. And sports in a car. And it's present, so it's not like I can make science fiction some sort of fact. Excuse me. So we're going to be in a car. We're going to be in our pickup truck, small. In fact, I'm going to use the one that I experienced something similar in, but in this case, it's going to be in the desert, not in the mountains. And if I remember, it was like Toyotas weren't always full-size trucks. They're always like the mini trucks. I don't know what the hell you call them, but they weren't full-sized initially. And then, I think when I was around 17, 16, they came out with a full-sized Toyota. I'm that old. If I'm going to spell this right, Toyota. I should start with right where the action is at. And maybe the whole story could be like that action. Toyota. Yeah, man, I'm stuck. This is a boring story already in my mind, yet I'm going to try to write it. How did I make this good? I'm trying to think of other car in nature. I've never done I've watched rally car before, and I know they go through nature and they tumble through things. I can fictionalize better with what I've experienced in real life. I can tell a better lie. I was in a Toyota. God, what the hell were those called? Just like the Toyota pickup. The Toyota pickup sprays a rooster tail of sand. Man, that's spinning and sliding. Spinning and fishtailing. There's like a lot of animals. I just realized that when you're describing a lot of things that vehicles do, I mean, I guess a lot of similes, like metaphors, whatever. Sprays a rooster tail of sand. From spinning tires. paddling. Now I guess would they really like what? I don't. They're not going to have like paddle tires. You'd probably have like the. At least I think they had like the Mickey Thompsons. I think that's what they were called back in the day. The Mickey Thompson tires at least had extra grip, but you could still drive them on the road. They also had grips going around the sides. And usually when they had those too, they had like the toe in, but that was when you're doing this racing, so you could hit the corner quicker. So we're going to have not paddle tires. Spinning. I'm going to see if they still have Mickey Thompson tires out there and then use that. How do I know? I played a video game. Thompson's. And then I was into cars, so I understand Mickey Thompson tires. Yeah, Mickey Thompson Baja tires. They're like a thing, Mickey Thompson tires. How do I know? Mickey Thompson Baja Pro. That's what I want. From spinning Mickey Thompson Baja Pros. Baja Pro tires. It's going to be like all sponsored. So we're going to have person versus nature. The heel will represent a little bit of nature, but I think the heel's going to have to. It's really going to be like, it's going to catch on something. It's going to fail because it catches on a root, maybe. Maybe there's a slide. So the Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster Teller sand from spinning Mickey Thompson Pro tires. Up the heel Devastator. Devastator. How am I gonna Devastator? Widow's Rise. I mean, it's like at least with the yeah. It seemed like every steep hill, at least more than one that I remember when I was young, was called like Widow's Peak, Widow's Hill. And then someone would take some vehicle and try to climb it. Sometimes they'd make it. Up the steep slope. Widow's Rise. Is this going to be like the whole... From Mickey Thompson spinning up I think that's going to be it. The Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster Teller sand from the Mickey Thompson Pro tires from its. Let's give it a little possession. We'll give it some agency. Make sure it can possess a thing. Like, really, it can't, but it's part of it. So from its Mickey Thompson Pro tires spinning up the steep slope called Widow's Rise. So now we need all the people. We need the scene. And I don't know how the nature is something, nature's going to happen somehow. I don't know. Nature's going to happen somehow. And I don't know. I suppose those are true statements. Both together and apart. Baja Pro tires spinning up the steep slope called Widow's Rise. It rises from parked pickups, trucks, and groups of people cheering on. They got third person, right? Okay, so I gotta go do third. And in present tense, that's great. That's where I fall naturally into doing everything. The Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster Teller sand from its Mickey Thompson Pro tires, spinning up the steep slope called Widow's Rise. It rises from the parked lot from dirt and parked pickup trucks and people. Gripping beers and passing money between fists. A dirt and from hard flat sand and parked trucks surrounded by people gripping beers and passing money between fists. It rises from a hard flat sand and parked pickup trucks surrounded by people gripping beers and passing money between fists. It rises toward a lone pickup at the top of Widow's Peak. As Widow's Rise, at the top of Widow's Rise, all right, so this is going to be the entire run of this. Somehow nature is going to move it up. So the whole entire instance is this trying to get up the side of the hill. I don't need much more in the story, I believe. I think that should be enough, at least for my mind, and to satisfy my constraints. And what time do I have here? I have an hour and 41 minutes left. Let's process more words. Let's see where they go. Maybe they'll go somewhere. Maybe they won't. So the Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster Teller sand from its Mickey Thompson Baja Pro tires, spinning up the steep slope called Widow's Rise. It rises from a hard flat sand and parked pickup truck surrounded by people gripping beers and passing money between fists. It rises toward a lone pickup truck at the top of Widow's Rise and a pair of people shouting taunts of, "I am the king of the peak." What's a name? What is a name? Timmy, Jimmy. I'm just not trying to make a joke of this, but I'm trying to make a name. I just don't want to use one I've used. Let's use Ben. Ben. I like Ben. Ben. I mean, you can't really. You need reputable person. They're gonna have a stick shift likely. They want to keep it. Like, God, would you? I mean, you wouldn't want a stick shift, but I wouldn't want a stick shift if I was climbing this hill, because then you're gonna have potential of, just make it more challenging. And I'm not a hill climber, so shifting on an upswing when you're going really fast and trying to figure out exactly where your RPM's at. You have your low torque, high torque. Geez, man, it's been a minute. Probably saying stuff out loud that makes me sound more stupid than I really am, which is not a challenge. At the top of the Widow's Rise, and a pair of people shouting taunts of "I am the king of the peak." Band grips, the Toyotas. Like, what's some features like Toyota's leather wrapped steering wheel? And shifts to second gear without a stall. And revs and presses the pedal. The Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster Tella sand from its Mickey Thompson's Baja Pro tires. Ben grips the steering wheel, the Toyota's leather-wrapped steering wheel, and shifts to second gear without a stall and presses the pedal. He fills the rear tires, slides side to side. And slip the truck near the tree, near the tree stump here. Near hangers, and slips the truck near hanger stump. And a wall dug. Ben grips the Toyota's leather-wrapped steering wheel and shifts to second gear. Without a stall and hearing only. The rev of the engine. He presses the pedal. He feels the tire slide side to side and slip the truck near hanger's stump. I think so. I think they go near hanger stump. He mutters. Let's have it mutter like this. He feels the rear tire slide side to side and slips the truck near the hanger stump. The rear tires slide side to side and slip near truck. I don't need the truck. I just need slip near hanger stump. Damn it, he mutters. The truck tires pop from the ruts, the sandy ruts, and bounce from the stump, chipping, exposing a root. The people below cheer as Chad has been in this Toyota. Climbs beyond, climbs up the hill, climbs beyond the hill, climbs someplace. It climbs someplace. The people below has been, the people below Oh, Ben. You got this. The people below cheer, go Ben, and you got this as Ben Toyotas climbs past the stump. Climbs from, what's the stump? Hanger stump. And toward, what would this be like? Like another obstacle. And toward Rock Alley. Doorway rocks. Doorway rocks. Doorway. The rocky doorway. Two boulders. What's going to happen? I don't know. I don't think they're going to, maybe they'll win. Person versus nature, right? Nature always mostly wins. The people below cheer, go Ben, and you got this. And Ben's Toyota climbs from hanger stump toward the rocky doorway. Two boulders as big as motorbikes. Slowly sliding down the sand hill. And locally named. What's, if I were going to name two big rocks and I was in some town that had this, what would I call these? Like, they're going to have names. Locally named Wilma and Fred. Wilma and Fred. I'm thinking Flintstones. The people below cheer, "Go Ben, and you got this." As Ben's Toyota climbs from hangars set up from as Ben's Toyota climbs from hangar stump. And do I have an apostrophe on hangar stump up here? I do. Toward rocky doorway. 2 boulders as big as motorbikes slowly sliding down the sand hill, and locally named Wilma and Fred. I know that action just like kills it, but we're going to go with that description because it's kind of fun. Ben revs. Presses gas. Revving engine. Both hands grip the steering wheel as he fights with his truck to hold a straight line between the boulders. Three car widths apart. I know it's a lot of description, just like we're killing it. Both hands grip. I'm gonna grib this. Ben presses gas, revving engine. Both hands grip the steering wheel as he fights with the truck to hold a straight line between the boulders. Sweat stings Ben's eyes. His body grips itself. And sinks into the sink and presses into the sink. The seat, like becoming one with the machine. What the hell? I just changed this person's name. Like Ben. This person's name is Ben. Let's not forget that because I'm trying to write a story about one character at least with many around, but this is the main one. Maybe that's going to be a failure part of this stochastic fiction game for today, but that's fine. We'll see. I can make the car as a character too, right? Sweat stings Ben's eyes and his body grips itself and presses into the seat, like becoming one with the machine. With the truck he calls What did I to give it a name, right? Gotta have a name. Gotta have a name. Climb there, Bucky. I don't know. I just like the name Bucky. For horses, for cars, especially if you're doing Baja type stuff where you're bouncing around. Into the seat, becoming one with, he calls Bucky. He feels the vibration from the revving engine. The loose sway of the rear tires. The shake of the transmission. Like, would you... Yeah, I mean, you just do high revs. You're not shifting, because that's hard. In a normal hill, but when you're trying to actually go up the side of a hill, he feels the vibration of the revving engine, the loose sway of the rear tires, the clunk of the transmission. The slow of their ascent. He presses the pedal. All right, so we're climbing the hill. We're going up the hill. And at some point, it's going to bottom out. What is going to happen here? It's person versus nature. This feels sort of nature, and I got a truck. There's many. I got a couple, at least primary, not necessarily. I got the person at the top. The one they're trying to play the sport against. Hill climbing, it's a sport. May not be sanctioned by many, but I've seen many different people do it in many different cultures. So yeah, it's a sport. Sweat stings Ben's eyes. His body grips itself and presses into the seat like becoming with the truck. He calls Bucky. He feels the vibrations from the revving engines, the loose sway of the rear tires, the clunk of the transmission, the slow of their ascent, the bounce from the bumper against Fred, the boulder Fred. The crowd below cheers. And the lone pair of people above clap and start waving their hands. You're halfway. Ben knows he got this. Ben hears a shout over the engine. Yeah. I guess Ben does hear the shout over the engine. Ben hears the shouts over the engine. And then here's a pop. Bucky spins and climbs as the wall of hard sand as a slope leans into... This is where I'm a little lost, actually. So Bucky spins and climbs. So how's this going to end? Like, failure, but it's got to be part of nature, right? So you're either going to flip over and roll down this sand hill, or you're going to get stuck in the sand and then just awkwardly go back down backwards and hopefully not hit anything on the way down. Bucky spins and climbs as the slope leans. I mean, your slope increasing. So like the negative slope, steeper. So if it's increasing, it gets steeper. As the slope steepens. Bucky spins and climbs as the slope steepens. Well, I think I'm going to take a quick pause. I'll be right back. And then here we go again. Hour and 13 minutes left of the Stochastic Fiction game. I am back from the break. That did not take too long. I do have more coffee and more water, so of course life is great. I have two things that I enjoy, and words, and a story. So I can refresh my mind of where the story was at and where it's going to be going. I'm going to go ahead and read the Stochastic Fiction outline and see if I'm at least writing towards these story elements right now. I may be close to the end of the story, I may not. The story elements for today's Stochastic Fiction game: setting time present, setting main location car, conflict person versus nature, quantity of primary characters mini, point of view third, tense present tense, genre sports, format flash fiction story. And for this story today, we have a sport about cars because that's the main setting. And having had some experience with people who like to drive up the side of the hills in the competition, and have seen other people around the world do the same thing, it seems to me like this is actually a sport that people bet money on. And ego. We have Ben climbing up the side of this, and we're trying to get to see where Bucky is the car. Bucky spins tires and climbs as the slope steepens. Here's the shouts over the engine purring, humming like meditating. On climbing the hill. Ben sees the ridge. About 7 car lengths. He sees the chrome bumper shining the desert, shining the blue sky sun. The chrome bumper of Russell's I mean, what kind of Chevy would you actually be? A Ford Ranger. Russell's Ford Ranger. And let's give it up here. We gotta name this. What type of truck is it? Rise it alone. Pick up a lone Ford Ranger. I'm not a Ford fan. It's just the one that came to mind. I can't think of any like mid-size Chevy old school trucks right now. Ford Ranger comes to mind. It rises toward a Ford Ranger at the top of the Beatles rise. And because people may not know what a Ford Ranger is, I'm just going to go and add that little description. Grip hands and shout like performing a cheer for Ben's failure. The crowd below spans. Bucky spins and climbs as the slope steepens. Bucky slips and digs a small hole. Would you downshift? Probably, maybe. Bucky pups and putters. Putts and putters. Putters. Ben downshifts Bucky. Bucky to first gear. Kicking outside for the low torque. Helping Bucky dig and slowly crawl from the hole. The rut. And near the top. All right, what's going to happen? Ben shouts, "Let's go!" Ben shouts, "Let's go." Bucky peeks. Bucky's front tires peak as the real tires push. Our tires push. Feeling victory and seeing and then the nature part, the crash. The whole hillside is going to give way. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure. And then the story's done. "Let's go, go, go," shouts Ben, feeling victory and seeing Russell nod and wave his arms up. Near up. Swoosh. The world slips. Bucky's rear tires. The side of the hill breaks. Side of the steep rise breaks and slides. Ben sees the sky slipping backwards. Bucky sinks. Tires and swims down the hill. It's quarter panel. Slams Fred. Slams the boulder Fred. It's tire. Punctures. What was the stump called? The stump. There is a stump here that I had. And I don't know what I called it. Hanger's stump. Sand slides over the hood. Ben frantically shifts from neutral to reverse. Presses gas. Bucky pulls. Rides fast in reverse from the slope toward the crowd. Who run from the sand, attempt to get in their cars, attempt to pull their cars away. The sand spreads and slows. Resting Bucky at the bottom. Bucky and Ben at the bottom. At the top. What was his Russell? Lyle's girlfriend. Joanne wonders, asks, how are we getting down? Bucky pulls from the sand, frantically shifts from neutral to reverse and presses gas. The sand spreads, resting Bucky at the bottom. What do I call it? Widows something. It's always Widows. Widow's Peak, Widow's Rise, Widow's Trail, Widow's Rise. Widow's Rise. Now more a cliff than a slope. I mean, I think that's it. I hope I don't have like a boring ending. I mean, it took an hour and 3 minutes. Frantically shifts from neutral to reverse and presses gas pedal. Frantically shifts from neutral to reverse and presses gas pedal. Pedal, paddle, pedal, 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 paddle. I always forget this. Pedal, not the act. That's where I mess up. Presses gas pedal. Bucky pulls from the sand, covering the bumper, and rides fast in reverse from the slope toward the crowd, who runs. Hide in their cars. The sand spreads and slows. Resting Bucky and Ben at the bottom. Widow Rise now more a cliff than a slope. At the top, Russell shouts, "I am the king of the hill," while his girlfriend asks, "How are we getting down?" I mean, this is person versus person a little bit, person versus ego, person versus society, but it's also like that whole nature thing. And that's the story for today. We need a name for it. Let's go Widow's Rise. Just call it what the hill is, and we'll call it a story. I'll read this story aloud, but first, before I read this story aloud, I want to be able to read the story elements and make sure that I've at least wrote to those story elements for today. Even if this story is terrible, well, hey, it's okay. At least it's a story. Yes, at least it's a story. And so, that story with these story elements: setting, time, present, setting, main location, car, conflict, person versus nature, quantity of primary characters, many, point of view, third, tense, present tense, genre, sports, format, flash fiction story. We'll rate this a score of 1 to 4 at the end. For today's Stochastic fiction game story, it is called Widow Rise. This is Widow Rise. The Toyota pickup sprays a Rooster-Teller sand from its Mickey Thompson Baja Pro tires, spinning up the steep slope called Widow Rise. It rises from a hard, flat sand and parked pickup truck surrounded by people gripping beers and passing money between fists. It rises toward a lone Ford Ranger pickup truck at the top of Widow's Rise, and a pair of people shouting taunts of, "I'm the king of the peak." Ben grips the Toyota's leather-wrapped steering wheel and shifts to second gear without a stall, hearing only the rev of the engine. He presses the pedal. He feels the rear tires slide side to side and slip near hanger stump. Damn it, he mutters. Climb, Bucky. The tires pop from the sandy ruts and bounce from the stump, exposing root. The people below cheer. Go, Ben, and you got this, as Ben's Toyota climbs from hanger stump toward rocky doorway. 2 boulders, 3 car widths apart, as big as motorbikes, slowly sliding down the hill in locally named Wilman Fred. Ben presses gas, revving engine. Both hands grip the steering wheel as he fights with the truck to hold a straight line between the boulders. Sweat stings Ben's eyes. His body grips itself and presses into the seat, becoming one with the truck he calls Bucky. He feels the vibration from the revving engine, the loose sway of the rear tires, the clunk of the transmission, the slow of their ascent, the bounce from the bumper against the boulder Fred. The crowd cheers, and the lone pair of people above start waving their hands. You think you got this? Ben hears the shouts over the engine, humming like meditation on climbing the hill. Ben sees the ridge about 7 car lengths away. He sees the chrome bumper of Russell's Ford Ranger shining in the blue sky. Russell and his girlfriend grip hands and shout like performing a cheer for Ben's failure. Bucky spins and climbs as the slope steepens. Bucky slips and digs a small hole. Bucky putts and putters. Ben downshifts Bucky to first gear, kicking its side for the low torque, helping Bucky dig slowly and crawl from the rut and near the top. Ben shouts, "Let's go!" Bucky's front tires peak and pull, the rear tires push. "Let's go, 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 go," shouts Ben, feeling victory and seeing Russell nod and wave his arm up. The world slips. The side of the steep rise breaks. Ben sees the sky sliding backwards. Bucky sinks up to its tires and swims down the slope. Its quarter panel slams against Boulder Fred. Its tire punctures against hanger stump. Sand slides over the hood. Ben frantically shifts from neutral to reverse and presses the gas pedal. Bucky pulls from the sand, covering the bumper, and rides fast in reverse from the slope toward the crowd, who runs from the spreading sand and hides in their trucks. The sand spreads and slows, resting Bucky and Ben at the bottom. Widow rises, now more a cliff than a slope. At the top, Russell shouts, "I am king of the hill," while his girlfriend asks, "How are we getting down?" Well, I don't hate that story. Maybe it could be better if some rewriting and working were done to it, or if I just edited it. I could probably push it someplace and feel like I'm not an idiot. It comes from enough real-life experience as well as an understanding of how this sport does happen around the world. So I'd say it's around a 3 to a 4. Let's save this story. Let's rate it. As I do with all stories, I like to source control my creation and time it. That's what I'm doing right now. With the timer in the file, I hate to give 0.5, but that's probably about 3.5. And don't hate it. Well, that was the story for today. That was a little stochastic. Me being the parameter that has all the values that randomly applies it to this outline. And if this story is going to be successful and read and enjoyed by others, it's because I've experienced it. Similar, not the same. Because the more nonfiction you experience in life, the better your fiction will be, because your lie will improve. And until the next time I fictionalize, I hope you do as well and write a great story. They're out there. Just need the time and the life.